the world is so different. So many different things in the world are non-applicable to 1,000 or 1,500 years ago. It's more important for a person to get to know their own community and the area where they live, and to understand the people around them, and to be able to interact with them. Learning this highfalutin stuff about people who've been dead for 2,000 years. For what? So on to my opponent's second point. An understanding of history requires that history be learned in an effective way. That's no problem there. If you want to understand history, you do need to learn it in an effective way. And let's just remember that history is not of primary importance. What's important is social skills, being able to live with the people around you. My opponent on point 3 says that all the other branches exhibit the same properties as history. So we're looking at this whole case based on get a bunch of education in the person and they'll be happy and successful in life. Totally neglect social skills. I mean, what about a bunch of people who are just selfish and self-centered, don't care about people around them, just going about their own way, doing their own thing, don't care about family, friends, nothing like that? All they're after is their own happiness. And the only way to judge whether or not they're happy is how educated they are. What kind of world would that be? So, at this point, I think that the judge has to vote for the negative side of the resolution. Education is not indispensable for mature adulthood. It may be important, but it's not indispensable. What is indispensable is social skills. Negative sits down. That was a good little speech the negative gave. Now the affirmative gets up and has to defend their case and attack the negative. The affirmative, and here we are, so affirmative gave their speech, negative gave their speech and attacked the affirmative. Now the affirmative's 4 minutes, short speech. And the affirmative gets up and says, let's look at the negative case for a moment. The negative values social responsibility. Why would you want people to be socially responsible? Well, I'm going to show in a second here that social responsibility, people being socially responsible to each other, comes from education, from knowledge of history, and from maturity. Okay? So I can get social responsibility, but here's the point. My opponent wants everyone to be socially responsible so that happiness will be had by all, right? Do away with suffering, do away with crime, do away with revolution, do away with poverty. Socially responsible, right? Why? Happiness. Okay, so he's got my value. It's right there, my value, and I can show I can get social responsibility. My opponent uses cultural homogeneity for the criteria of when do we have this, because my opponent says we need to have everybody be willing to pay taxes for the poor and whatever. Man, that's scary. Cultural homogeneity. You should be free to pay what you want to anybody who's poor or whatever, but to say that everybody in society's got to say and do and believe the same things on some basic level is kind of eerie. So I just disvalue cultural homogeneity with a raise of my eyebrows. Wow, how did he pull that out? So my criteria is going to be education. You don't have to make sure everyone's homogenous in the same way. Just have to have them all educated. So cultural homogeneity is just creepy. Then my opponent says that education, while necessary, is secondary to social skills in adults. Now here is the whole point. This is the negative case. Get ready, because here it goes. A mature, responsible adult is an adult who's educated and knows about the actions of other men in history and has some bearing on what is important and what isn't. If you learn about the things they did, the ways they failed, the ways they succeeded, like Isaac Newton and how he just wouldn't compromise on his beliefs and everyone boo-pooed him, and how Galileo got locked in the tower for his beliefs. If you are worried about your social interaction with other people, then you're not going to progress. Progress comes from people who don't care about that. So that's the whole thing of the negatives case, is social skills. Social skills and being able to interact with the people around you is a mature adult. And if there is friction or a problem between them, it's not necessarily the individual's problem. It could be society's problem or society's fault. Like in the case of Galileo, right? You can't, if it were up to the negative, he would say Galileo should have social skills and shouldn't disrupt society and rock the boat. The affirmative says education leads to happiness. Now we know that the sun doesn't go around the earth. So the negative is in favor of the earth is at the center of the universe, sort of attitude. And that's the whole thing. So to defend my case, all I can say is the negative has accepted my value of happiness. They're coming about it in a real creepy way with this cultural homogeneity thing. Education's the way to happiness. And they're going to cut education off for the sake of social skills. So the only thing I can say right now is you got to vote affirmative, that education is indispensable for mature adulthood. That would be their 4-minute speech. And then negative makes a 7-minute speech we won't go through, and the affirmative makes a 3-minute speech. Right? Anybody who wants to can spin any resolution they want, write a case, and put the affirmative speech out there, and then wait for a response, or we can set things up. There can be multiple responses. It'll get sloppy, but what the hell, let's do it.